Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I object, Your Honor. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, friend.
Look, they just blowed up my trailer, so y'all can be the FBI and you find him.
That's a really good accent.
I know this movie very well.
You do. I think I know the other one very well. We are doing two movies directed by Joel Schumacher, who died last week at the age of 80. R.I.P. Joel Schumacher.
R.I.P.
And both movies are movies based on books by John Grisham. So we're doing 1994's The Client, which has been on our list since the beginning, I think.
Yep.
And then 1996's A Time to Kill. So one of these is a really good adaptation, and the other one is A Time to Kill. Actually, I don't want to hate on it too much, but we'll get into that in a minute. Do you want to start? Should we just do it chronological? You want to start with The Client?
Sure.
Okay. This one is written by Akiva Goldsman and directed by Joel Schumacher. I already said that. And it stars Susan Sarandon, who was nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Ooh la la. Tommy Lee Jones, Brad Renfro, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
That one's tough. Mary Louise Parker, Anthony Edwards, Will Patton, Bradley Whitford, Anthony Heald. He's going to come up again later. Ozzie Davis, J.T. Walsh, and Anthony.
R.I.P.
Another one.
Yeah.
And Anthony LaPaglia. LaPaglia. See, I was so close on that one. Playing like the man in like the shiniest clothes.
And the shiniest hair.
The shiniest hair. He is like so mob stereotype with his shiny green suit and no shirt underneath and his gold oh boy, it's something to see. Did you see The Client in the theater?
Yes, and I think it was a double feature, and it was one of those like you saw two movies, and this one came out in the middle of the summer, and this is the summer I graduated college, and I went backpacking through Europe. So this is like the last thing I saw.
Nice.
And then I came back 2.5 months later, and everybody was talking about ER, was this TV show, and I'm like, what's that? And Anthony Edwards is on ER, as were some other people. So yeah.
What was the double feature? Because this played at my theater.
I don't remember.
And then
it kills me.
It was a double feature with something, and I can't remember what it was a double feature with.
No, it's like a movie that was already out, and then like this was like a month early or something. It was a big deal, like a screening. I mean, it was at San Ramon Theater. I mean, come on, Crow Canyon Cinema was not that special. But I was a big Grisham fan, and my other podcast, Book versus Movie, co-hosted by Margo P.
The other Margo. We did The Firm, and she wanted to kill me. She says, I am never going to read a John Grisham book again. Don't ask me. Are they not good books? I've never read any of his books.
I contend they're great stories and plots. Are they believable?
Right.
He has his trope. I haven't read I'll be honest with you. I haven't read a John Grisham book. No, The Christmas of the Cranks. I did read that. But other than that, I haven't read one in 20. I know, isn't that bizarre? It's so random.
I looked up a list of movies based on John Grisham books, and I thought it was a mistake when it said Christmas with the Cranks, and I was like, what?
No.
That's a thing. There you go.
Yep.
I'm gonna list those later, but yes,
okay.
It's real. So you haven't read, did you read The Client too?
Oh, I read The Client. I read A Time to Kill. I read The Firm, Pelican Brief, and there was a couple of others, and then I stopped because I had just other stuff to read. But
do you remember liking the book The Client, or do you like the movie more?
I know I liked the book. I liked his books back then, but I don't know why, but I super love The Client. I watch it all the time. Like a ridiculous number of times, like so that I can imitate Mary Louise Parker as Diane Sway. Like I know all the jokes. I just think it's really well cast. I think all the acting is terrific. I like the choices that they made. Joel Schumacher really loves the material. I think it's got a great story to it, and just like I said, the acting is just off the charts. Everyone's really, really good and believable.
I think both of these movies have really great casts. Like, I don't think you see casts like this in movies anymore.
That's a good point.
Like, if you see a cast like this, it's one of those really shitty Gary Marshall movies where it's Valentine's Day, or
R.I.P.
yeah, R.I.P. Sorry, Gary
Not
Marshall.
anymore.
But that then you would see like this amazing all-star cast. But both of these movies have really, really good casts, and like even like the smallest parts, you're like, I can't believe that somebody's playing these tiny little parts.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch in that regard. Do you think we should go through the story a little bit?
Yeah. So we have Mark Sway, Brad Renfro, R.I.P.
He's
He
so
and his
talented. What That's so sad.
he was an unknown. He was a kid who, ironically enough, was in one of those Dare commercials, which is those drug, yeah,
Right.
anti-drug commercials when he was a kid. He's from, I think, Knoxville, Tennessee. He and his little brother Ricky Sway, they overhear a guy in a car um, acting weird. They don't know what he's up to, but the guy in the car is actually attempting to kill himself, asphyxiate himself. And he sees the boys, and they get into the car with him, and he shoots himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know this movie so well. It's like other stuff I know really well. The first part. So, but the boys get away, and then little Ricky has PTSD. He's
It's so
basically sort of this.
sad.
It's horrible. This kid is completely traumatized, and their mother, they with a single mom who looks maybe 10 years older. She
Yeah.
was young when she had them, and
Yeah. They make that
that's
clear.
yeah. So that's Mary Louise Parker, and the boy. It turns out the guy that killed himself is connected to the mob somehow, and so Mark's in danger. You in danger, Mark. So he he's kind of scared by some guys at the hospital, and then he goes to a place in Memphis. This all takes place in Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, where he sees there's a bunch of law offices, and he sees one for a Reggie Love, and he assumes it's a man, and just bursts right in, and it's Susan Sarandon looking
She
amazing.
does.
Like
She looks amazing.
she's so hot. I mean, oh my God, she's like 47 and she looks like a teenager.
Yeah.
But Reggie Love, her story is she's divorced. She lost her kids. She used to be an alcoholic. She's recovered and she's a lawyer. And Mark literally takes the change out of his pocket and gives it to her. And she says, all right, you're my client now. And Mark has a problem with truthiness. He does because he's
Mm-hmm.
scared. He's scared to say anything. And there's Reverend Roy, who's Tommy Lee Jones,
Mm-hmm.
Roy Fultrig, and he wants Mark to talk about what he saw. And he's a showboat, and he's always like around the press, and he always has like a bunch of guys around him. And he's trying to get Mark to tell the truth. And Mark is terrified. If I tell the truth, I'm going to get killed, like that guy in the car. And his mother loses her job, and the hospital basically gives the mother a lot of Valium, so she's always kind of like in this daze.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark and Reggie become good friends. It takes a while, but they start to really trust
Yeah.
each
Their
other
relationship is very sweet.
and realistic. I think it kind of it goes on the right track. I mean, like it would. And so she, like last we said, she lost her kids because of her drinking problem, but she sees Mark as a kind of a second chance to be a mother to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives with Mama Love, who's really fun. And Anthony Edwards Clint is her assistant. He works with her at the law firm. And then they go to see Judge Ozzie Davis, who's so good in this
If
movie.
only every judge was an Ozzie Davis.
I'm telling you, I just love it. And so Mark, at one point, he is held in contempt of court for not talking, and he fakes a PTSD attack to get back to the hospital, sneak out of there, get to the hospital, get Reggie, and he says to Reggie, I know where the body is buried. And if they can say where the body is buried, then he can be under
He's
witness protection.
such a smart kid too.
Super smart kid. He's tough.
Yeah.
And he wears Led Zeppelin t-shirts. He's got a kind of a mullet, but not really
Yeah.
going on. But he's got a lot of heart and he's a lot of smarts.
Like
he's
everything could be solved if he had maybe fessed up at the beginning, like, hey, he told me this. But he is scared, and he's rightfully scared. It's
right.
and
he knew it was a big deal.
Yeah, and these guys don't give him any um comfort that they're going to protect him. So,
No,
there is this frustration where you're like, he should be telling them, but he also is very scared, and they don't try to protect him. Tommy Lee
right.
Jones and his cronies, they're trying to question him without a lawyer. They're
Hmm.
interrogating him. Like one of the cops, played by Will Patton, he's such a dick in this movie.
Oh, he's
Like,
horrible.
says like knows he's lying, and he's like, they have kid-sized electric chairs, that, and just I was like, who talks to kids like that? I was like, fuck you,
Right.
Will Patton. But
He's great though. He's great
he's
as a
great.
bad guy.
He really is.
So Mark sneaks Reggie out of the hospital, and they go driving, and he takes her to where the body is, and like they go right into the shack and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, Anthony LaPaglia is with the mob, and it was his screw up that got this guy to commit, who died by suicide, who was one of his cronies. It was his job to take care of him. And now the mob knows that this kid knows something. And so he has to find the kid too. So he's chasing them down, and he's really being snarly and has a knife on him and tattoos and see-through shirts and just
His
ticky-tacky, as my grandmother would say.
His clothes are so bad.
They're great though. I mean,
Yeah.
and so Mark and him and Susan Sarandon and Reggie Love, they sneak away, they get away, and she is able to have Ricky, excuse me, they can go into witness protection. She gets that walk-in closet that she wants. She gets, Mary Louise Parker, she's going to get a job, some money, and they're going to take off. And Susan Sarandon's character negotiates it. And Reggie and Roy are so great together. They're so, so good.
They are.
And Mark tells where the body is, and then he gets away with his mom. They fly off. Reggie's won the case, basically, and Roy's going to go on camera and act like a big shot. So
Right.
everybody kind of gets what they want.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
It's not really a courtroom thriller like, say, Time to Kill is. This one's more of just a thriller, but there's so much to like. Like you said, everybody's really good in it. I like that. I like the relationship between Reggie and Mark. I think it's really
Very
sweet.
much.
I just like Reggie so much. There's this great scene where like Tommy Lee Jones and his boys come into her office, and Mark has now decided he doesn't want to talk to them. So she, at the last minute, has to like get rid of them. And like they come in, and she just kind of, you can see like she puts up this armor, like her work armor, and and like questions them. And she's really, really smart, and she's really fast. And she shuts them down and sends them on their way. And like the minute they leave, like the armor kind of comes down, and she's like, yes. Jesus Christ, and it just reminds me so much of kind of a thing we all do. Like when you're at work, you kind of put up this, like, here's my work persona. And then you like go to the bathroom and close the stall door, and you're like, ugh.
And cry.
It's the thing like so much of us have to do. It felt very real to me. I like
also,
this.
she's a woman,
Yeah.
and all these guys are talking down to her, and even like Mark only picked her because he thought by her name she was a man, and so she has to kind of convince everybody, like, yes, I'm a woman, yes, I was an alcoholic, yes, I lost my children, but I can still do this job. I'm smarter than you are. I can handle it, and so it's like she's also proving to herself she can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of sexism towards her. There's like Roy says to her, like, you're so pretty. How could anyone mistake you for a lawyer? Just, bullshit like that. But I even like the nurse. There's even this like really pretty nurse.
She's so hot. She's like out of a ZZ Top
video,
right?
She is. She's like borderline like Cinemax After Dark nurse. She's so beautiful. Yeah. And Mark obviously has like a little crush on her. And he asks her, like, how old are you? And she says 24. And he says, are you married? And she says, sometimes.
I like that line. It's a good line.
And I was like, that's so awesome. And I loved, this is me again, just going, I loved Mary Louise Parker in this movie. I think
she's so good.
She's so good. And everyone's really good in it. William H. Macy has a small part. But I think in a lesser movie, her mom would have been this like white trash, shitty mom. And she's not those things. She's a good mom. She's really doing her best. She's just they're poor. They're poor and she's working these
Right.
shit jobs that don't give them any time off and she loses her job and you can see like she's really struggling. And but she does care about those boys.
No, she has a lot of dignity,
Yeah.
and I think, she's in trauma herself, just trying to figure out, how am I going to pay my bills? Because you get the idea the father's not involved at all,
Mhm.
and she has to do it on her own. And yeah, I mean, then the hospital gives her Xanax or whatever to try to calm her down, so that kind of interferes. Like you could tell sometimes she's kind of spacing out a little bit, but it's not because she's high, like, she's smoking dope or anything like that. It's just like they're trying to calm her down at the hospital. So she's trying to deal with the pressure. It's such a good performance. And in these, like, kind of a cheap t-shirt and jeans. And, she's not, like you said, she's just poor. She just doesn't have a lot of money, but she has a lot of self-respect and
Mhm.
dignity and believes in doing a good job. And like you said, just all her whole dream is a walk-in closet.
Yeah,
Like,
hey,
get this woman a goddamn walk-in closet,
by the
please.
way, we all want that.
Yes, me too. My mother had one. It was amazing.
And walk-in closet is hyphenated, FYI. If you've all seen The Client, there is a question about whether or not walk-in closet is hyphenated. It is, just so you know. Let's see, what else should we talk? I do love their goodbye. It's also very sweet. And he
Hmm.
says, "I'll call you," because, and I just love that. It made me laugh because no one's gonna tell that kid what to do. He
He's always
clearly,
going to be rebellious.
yes, he is that kid because he's really smart.
He's super smart. I mean, honest to God, I hope his brother's okay. I mean, in my mind, they're all okay. She gets a good job, and the boy, Ricky gets better. Mark kind of gets his act together, and
I
that's in my mind, it's a happy ending.
I like that you finished the story in your head. I know there
Yeah.
was a TV series. Did you watch it?
No, I only was able to see the intro for it on YouTube, and it
Mm.
was Joe Beth Williams and John Hurd.
I love both of those people.
I do too. Ozzie Davis is in it too. He plays the judge.
I see. I can't believe I didn't watch the show. I
Yeah.
probably would have really liked it.
I'm sure it was pretty good. I'm sure it was fine. I also like JT Walsh. She's a character actor,
Mhm.
RAB, and he plays a guy that's such a schlub and
He is.
so just wants to be a part of Reverend Roy's team and get out of Memphis politics. And you just could tell by looking at him, like, it's just not going to happen. His haircut sucks. His clothes suck. He looks
Yeah.
nervous all the time.
They treat him
But
so
it's such a
shitty
good
too.
performance. Oh my God, they're so rude to him.
Just
And he just puts up with it.
there's just all these people in the movie. Like Bradley Whitford wasn't very famous at this point. I don't West Wing hadn't aired. That's the show that really
Hmm.
put him on the map. But just all these people that show up in the like William H. Macy as a doctor.
Hmm.
Um Anthony Heald, who will show up in A Time to Kill, once again playing like a creepy psychiatrist in A Time to Kill. These people, they just make the movie feel special, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're so fun to watch on TV. Like they're perfect. They're like perfect TNT movies.
It's perfect sit on your couch kind of movie. And you could check your phone every once in a while. You're not going to miss too much. It's totally fine. It's just good medicine. I don't know. It's a perfect 3-part, 3-act movie. The
Yeah.
intro, the middle, and then the end. And you leave feeling good, and you leave feeling like the right person was protected, and that Ricky's going to be okay, and they're all going to be okay, and Anthony Pally is going to sleep with the fishes. But that was his lot in life. That's
It's so funny
act like
that
a gangster. See what happens.
like so much of the wardrobe does the heavy lifting for that
Yes.
part. Like you know exactly who that guy is from the second you see him because his hair is so shiny. And like I said at the beginning, he's wearing this green suit. Like it's so shiny and he's not wearing a shirt underneath it but it's buttoned up, but there's still no
Ugh.
shirt and then the gold chain. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I love
There's
it.
also a couple of bad guys, but one in particular befriends Mark at the hospital, and he looks scary as shit.
Yeah.
Mark is smart enough to kind of tell, like, oh, wait a second, this guy is bad news, and get away from him. He's such a smart kid.
He's super
But
smart.
he shows up every once in a while. And you're like, oh my God. it's just super well cast. It's the right amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. It's like a comfort movie for me. It puts me in a better mood.
I could see that because the bad guys lose, the good guys
Hmm.
win. Yeah, it's that kind of movie, and it's dealing. Unlike the next one, the next movie
Ugh.
we're gonna talk about has like some really big ideas about what it's talking about, and then like kind of what it's really talking about.
Hmm.
The client is talking. It's just kind of a thriller, but there is also this like undercurrent of kind of justice for people that don't have money. Like they don't
Right.
have money to like hire good lawyers and like be protected and things like they can be easily bullied by someone like Tommy Lee Jones, who isn't like an evil person. He's
No, he's just a
he's
politician.
just he's not really like a lawyer who wants to do good. He's just really more of a politician than a lawyer. But ultimately he does the right thing because he has to.
Yeah, he's forced into it. Yeah, she blackmails him into it basically, but
They have
it's for
really
the right reason.
they have really good chemistry. Like
See, I also kind of have a thing like I bet they start dating. Like
I would think so too.
I think
Actually,
they got some chemistry going on there. Yeah,
I think there's a little
there's
hint.
attraction.
I think there's like a little spark there at the end where she like straightens his tie, and I think it's I
There's some
think
attraction going
I
on.
think there's a little suggestive thing going on there.
Hmm.
I'm here for it. Let's work
Yeah,
on
yeah.
our let's work on our fan fiction.
Okay. I've got my client universe in my head
I would like to
that takes me to places that put me in a good mood.
I want to visit your client universe.
Like Animal Crossing, you can visit my client crossing universe.
You could build a client universe in Animal Crossing. It'll be so good.
Yes.
I would totally go there.
Yep.
I mentioned that Susan Sarandon was nominated for an Oscar. She didn't win. Did you want to hear who else was nominated?
Oh, please.
Okay, so the other people nominated was Winona Ryder for Little Women.
Oh, she was great in that.
She's so good in that movie. That's a good movie.
Great movie.
Miranda Richardson for Tom and Viv.
I never saw it.
I'm like I've forgotten it, but I'm sure I saw it. Jodie Foster for Nell.
She did not get an Oscar nomination.
Yeah,
for
she
that.
did.
Holy
I almost like
shit.
broke out in laughter mid sentence, like Nell, because I know it's one of your things.
No, it's my parents were obsessed with that movie in that how stupid it was, and they would talk like Nell. They would like go around the house flailing their
Oh
arms.
my gosh.
My dad would, and my mom would be like, "What do you want, Nell? Do you want some coffee now? I'll make you coffee now." I'm not kidding. It's the best movie, but so stupid.
She was nominated, and then the winner was Jessica Lange for Blue Sky, which I've never seen.
It's okay. I mean, Jessica Lange's been much better in better things,
Right.
but sometimes it's one of those. Well, she should have won for this thing instead. So
That's
we'll
true.
give her this one.
One
Yeah,
of those lifetime achievement Oscars.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I have never. I didn't see that one. Should we talk about A Time to Kill?
Oy, 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 here we go.
Okay,
This one. Whew.
Yeah, so this one came out in 96, so 2 years later. It's also written by Akiva Goldsman, and obviously also directed by Joel Schumacher. And it stars Matthew McConaughey. This was like his first really big movie. He had done Dazed and Confused like 3 years before, and he's obviously amazing in Dazed and Confused. We all know that character from that movie, but it didn't make him like a big star. This made him a really big star. And this is a really good cast. So Samuel L. Jackson, Sandra Bullock, Kevin Spacey, fucking Kevin Spacey, Oliver Platt. I love Oliver Platt. Love me some Oliver Platt. Ashley Judd, Chris Cooper, and Donald Sutherland. And Kiefer Sutherland is in there. It's got a really good cast. And if you haven't seen
Brenda
it,
Fricker.
oh, and Brenda Fricker, yes.
Like, are you kidding me?
Like every part is somebody you're like, oh, it's that person. It's that you'll recognize them immediately. So this movie it's pretty fucked up. So it's set in like rural Mississippi. This 10-year-old black girl's walking home from the grocery store, and she's got her groceries. And then we're also seeing like these two gross, like disgusting redneck, like hillbilly hick guys driving around in their souped up truck with like their Confederate flag on the back. They've got mullets. They're gross and dirty, and like their shirts are too tight, and they couldn't make them any more repulsive. Like they
It's
are.
so cartoonish.
It is.
Like if they had Roger Rabbited it, there's just like one point away from that.
It is
Like just
so.
yeah.
They are the nastiest things you've ever seen. So they, like kidnap her on her way home, and they brutally attack her. They rape her. They hang her from a tree, and then they rape her, and then they like dump her over a bridge, like into the river or whatever, and that's where she's found. And she doesn't die, but her father is Samuel L. Jackson, and he knows that these two white guys are probably not going to face any serious jail time for what they did. So he hides in the courthouse, and when they're being brought in to be arraigned, he runs out with this crazy automatic weapon that I was like, damn, where'd he get that? And kills these guys in front of everybody. So there's never like any doubt about like who did it. Like it's really obvious
No,
because the whole town is there to see these guys brought in. And then Matthew McConaughey plays the lawyer Jake Brigance. There's some really good accents in this movie. And he is like the white lawyer who's going to try to get him off. And then we get Sandra Bullock shows up as like a law student who volunteers to work for Matthew McConaughey for free because her dad's filthy rich. I actually really like Sandra Bullock in this movie.
We always like Sandra Bullock. She's great. She's always welcome on my screen.
Yeah. So, and then also the horrible rapists who are dead. One of their brothers is Kiefer Sutherland, and he's so angry that his brother's been murdered that he activates the Klan and goes full Klan. And he's full Klan. You never go full Klan. He goes full Klan, and he's like burning crosses and burning people's houses down and being a sniper, and like all kinds of fucked up shit is going on in this movie. And I don't know. When I saw it the first time, I was like, well, that's really watchable. Like, I wouldn't say I loved it. Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, that's a really good movie. But there's so many good people in it that I was like, it's kind of watchable. But I haven't watched it in a really long time, and it played at my theater forever, so I saw bits and pieces of it all the time. And now watching it, I'm like, there's some very problematic things happening in this movie.
Oh my God. It was a book, and it actually he published it before The Firm. And when The Firm did really well, the Penguin bought the rights and then put it out. And me and a lot of other people like, this is even better than The Firm. It's a really good book. I can't wait to see this movie. I was that dumb. And then the summer that this comes out, Matthew McConaughey's on the cover of Vanity Fair. Yeah. He looks like Paul Newman at Paul Newman's hottest. Like
I have no problem.
So sexy and handsome.
I have no problem with how Matthew McConaughey looks in this movie.
He's delicious. So yeah, my neighbor and I, Erin, we went to see this movie, and we wrote the date down. Like, this is when the movie comes out. We're going to go to the local theater. We can't wait. And then we saw the movie, and we were walking home. I'm like, that's kind of shitty, don't you think? And she's like, just like, it was so over the top. Like,
it is.
Even the sweating is like over the top sweating.
It is. This movie is
the sweatiest movie.
Very melodramatic. Melodramatic. And everyone, I wrote in my notes, everyone is dewy, like perfectly like gorgeous and sweaty, but not like ugly sweaty. The guys at the beginning, the rapists, they're ugly sweaty.
Yeah.
Everyone else in the movie is gorgeous sweaty.
Ashley Judd in particular.
Yeah.
She's radiant.
Yes, she's glowing through the whole movie.
Yeah.
As she usually does, because Ashley Judd, she's insanely beautiful. But let me talk about Oliver Platt for a second. He is one of those actors that whenever he shows up, I'm like, oh, good. Oliver Platt's in this. I love Oliver Platt. I think he's always rad. he is
He
one of
is always rad.
he is one of my like underappreciated, like we had talked about like Christine Baranski, like kind of the
Mhm.
underappreciated character actors. I think Oliver Platt is that. He's so good at playing people that are morally challenged. He's so
He
good at
does it
it.
with a twinkle in his eye. He seems to have fun with it.
Yeah. I
I feel like
really
that about Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, Donald Sutherland too. That's another one that like every time he shows up, you're like, "Oh good, at least Donald Sutherland's in this."
He
Like,
classes up the joint, you know. It feels like his presence makes it seem more serious than it actually is.
yeah.
And he's a drunk judge, or Lucian?
He he is a drunk who and a lawyer. But he has
Mm,
lost his license. And he was Matthew McConaughey's character's mentor. So he goes
okay.
to him for advice a lot, but he is a drunk. He's a lovable drunk, like Arthur.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's the Southern eccentric thing too.
For
Just
sure.
it's this small town thing, and so Matthew McConaughey has this beautiful wife, a beautiful house,
Mhm.
and he's struggling to pay the bills. Brenda Frickers is secretary.
Mhm.
Okay. And then so this murder happens, and he takes on the case, and it's going to be a death penalty case.
Yes.
And that's why Ellen Roark, who Sandra Bullock, shows up, because she's against the death penalty. And like we said, she's conveniently like gorgeous,
Mhm.
a lawyer, available, and her dad's rich, so he'll pay for it.
Yeah. I do love
Okay.
that. I do love that scene. She's like, "Oh, and I'll be working for free cuz my dad is filthy rich." I'm like, "Yeah. Yeah, of course."
Must be nice.
There's a couple of lines in this movie. There's one where like Kiefer Sutherland as the brother is like, we need to get the clan going here, and then like someone else is like, "Oh, you mean them skinheads?" And like one of them says, "No, we need like good God-fearing clan." And I was like, "Gross." Like the idea that there's good, quote unquote, God-fearing clan. I'm like, ugh.
There's the racial politics here are really, really,
That's
really troublesome.
that's
And
yeah. I After I watched this movie last night, I basically went on a monologue to my husband, and he's like, "I think you put more thought into this than they did." And I'm like, "Maybe." I'm like, because I think the movie wants to be about, and I realize it's based on a book, and I haven't read the book, so the story's already kind of like locked in place. I understand that. So,
Mhm.
but I think the movie thinks it's telling a story about racism and the justice system. I think but it's more interested in its white characters
It's what, yeah.
than its black characters, and I'm like, so therefore it's kind of it's a bit of a white savior movie, and I'm like, that's a fail. But it also, I'm like, now I don't know if I'm going to explain it right, but I also think is it exploring the idea of what is justice? Like, is justice by the law, or is justice, do we judge it by the law, or do we judge it by empathy? Because
Right.
then I was like, well, then that's interesting, but I don't know if that's what the movie was going for, and if that's just what I was taking out of it. I don't know. So there's that,
Right.
and then there's this idea in the movie that Samuel Jackson's character, Carl Lee Haley, knows he's not going to get a fair trial. So he purposely hires a white lawyer because he knows this white lawyer speaks the language of the jury, and he says like, "What I know, I know. What would it take for you to hear to get me off?" Basically, like, you're one of the bad guys. What would it take for you, if you were sitting on that jury, to hear to set me free? And at that point I was like, well, if the movie was a little bit smarter, this almost would have been like a twist. Like, he
Mhm.
knew all along that he wasn't going to get a fair trial, so that's why he hired this white lawyer, and he's been kind of trying to work the system the whole time. But I don't think the movies put that much thought into it. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but instead the movie is just a white savior movie, and that's disappointing because there's such good people in this movie. and good
It's a total white
performances.
savior movie.
It is.
It's totally so at the very so the way he develops empathy with the jury is he's like, imagine your daughter walking home, getting picked up, being raped, dropped along the side of the road, left to die. Now picture her being white. And then
The jury
whole,
starts crying.
it's like, what? A white
What?
girl? Like, which is so. I remember the movie theater, like, because this is Park Slope. Like, people were laughing at that line. They're like, "Oh my god, that's so hokey." It's stupid.
The jury starts crying. This time while I was watching it, he says that line. In my head, I was like, now they cue the like Curb Your Enthusiasm theme, like, like, and then the movie ends. Like, you know, we talked. It's funny we're talking about this movie because actually, you and I on our other podcast, What a Creep, we recorded a bonus episode, and I referenced this movie where there's so many people in this country who might actually benefit from a movie like this if they would watch it, just in that they don't have any empathy for people. So like they have to have someone spell it out for them in the most basic way. Like, hey, like imagine cops were going around and just killing white people for no reason.
Right.
Like, wouldn't you be upset and wouldn't you be marching and protesting and things like that? Could you imagine how scary that would be? You have to like spell it out for some people. And I guess A Time to Kill is made for those people. Maybe
it's not for they're not shooting for the smart people. They're going for not that smart, but that's not snotty. It just they're trying to reach a mass audience, and so they're filling it up with like as many good-looking people as they can. And they have Matthew McConaughey's holding ship, Ashley Judd, Sandra Bullock. You know, Samuel Jackson's great. I mean, everyone's great, but I wish they were smarter about it. I think there's so many ways to take a John Grisham novel and make it smarter. It's really not hard.
No,
I mean, it does take that much effort.
You know what it is? The movie is not preaching to the choir. It's trying to get people that disagree with it on board, I think. And there's also a lot of debate about the death penalty in this movie that's I don't know, not very deep. But pretty superficial debating of the death penalty. Although I do like that Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock's characters don't agree on it. I actually thought that was kind of interesting, but it's not explored too much, just a little bit.
Well, it's more like, well, Southern people, this is how we think, and you East Coast people, that's how you think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the level of the depthness of it.
Yeah.
I remember from the book too, it annoyed me, and he did this a lot in his first novels. I don't know if he keeps doing this, but like he has a lead male character is the lawyer, and there's some temptress, and she's usually younger, and he always describes them like they're a model or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like this really pretty figure that has to be there for some reason, and don't stay with me. I don't know if I can handle this temptation. Like, you're fucking married, dude. Like, no.
Yeah. There is a funny scene where they're getting ready to sit down and talk about jury selection. Matthew McConaughey and I almost said Susan Sarandon, Sandra Bullock, and Donald Sutherland and Oliver Platt. And Donald Sutherland wants them to go out and he wants some drinks because he's a drunk. And he gives this speech to Sandra Bullock. He's like, I want you to know that you deserve equal pay for equal work. I support your right to have a baby or abort one. He's like, and this has nothing to do with that, but you are a law clerk and therefore you should have to go buy the beer. Like, it's kind of like a funny like way of putting it that really cracked me up. Like, but she is eye candy to a certain extent. But I think Sandra Bullock is so rad that she makes the most of that part. They all
make the most of their parts, but I feel like a lot of them are just very superficial, and they're just Kevin Spacey's character. I mean, that whole thing. He does Southern shithead really well.
He really does. Say. Here's the thing.
He's a great actor.
Kevin Spacey is a fucking creep. We all know this. He is also a really, really good actor, and he's he's good in this because everyone in this movie is good. I'm not shitting on any performances in this movie. Everyone in it is really good. And I do think it's really the scene with him and Samuel Jackson on the stand. It's like watching two like pros go at it, but the scene is so short and it's like, oh, they're just getting warmed up. Like if it could just go on like a few minutes longer, it would have been, you know, really something, but it immediately jumps from, you know, asking a simple question to I hope they burn in hell. You know, like it gets there really fast.
There's a lot of scenes of like all of a sudden destruction. So like there's this African American boy who's kind of like our I don't know how to describe him, but he's there for all the action. He shows up and notices everything, and the camera kind of follows him.
Yeah.
And we're meant to empathize with him because that's this community that he's looking out for. And then all of a sudden they have him throw a firebomb from a rooftop.
Yeah.
And all this crazy shit happens. I was like, what was that about? I mean, just all of a sudden things just go from 0 to 10. And it's so over the top, and the racism is over the top, and the flirtation is over the. It's like it's all. There's nothing subtle going on anywhere here.
No,
which is fine, you know. But I just think for a story with you're talking about sexual assault of a minor, and can we kill a guy, not kill a guy? I mean, I don't know. I felt like something like that. I thought that wasn't handled very. That could have been handled much, much better than it was.
And there's a lot of there's also some weird stuff in the movie about like the NAACP comes and they're like, you need to get a lawyer who's more sympathetic to the cause, and the church is involved, and they're gonna like raise money to pay for like a fancy lawyer, and it's almost like the NAACP is the bad guy in this scenario. Right. It's super weird. And they try to make the movie tries to make the NAACP look like the bad guys because they want to put the crime in like some sort of, maybe they want to make it a big headline, or maybe they want to put it in like some historical context. And it doesn't, but then like Samuel Jackson's character is like, well, I'm just going to use that money to pay Matthew McConaughey. And I don't know, it's set up like we're a good team. Well, we're not really a team because I'm in jail and you're not, you know, just this sort of thing. It's a very weird scene. Yeah. I don't know what it's doing in there. And then we get this also like another weird scene about Ashley Judd is like, you never spend time with us anymore. And she gets super mad at him for like, quote unquote, neglecting them. And I was like, okay, well, first of all, he's a lawyer who's handling a death penalty case. Maybe you cut him some fucking slack.
Do you read the papers? I mean, do you not know what your husband's doing every day? Do you not know there was a child that was assaulted? Like, y'all are just going to have to chill out. Yeah. You know?
Hey, I'm sorry you had to eat dinner by yourself because your husband's trying to make sure a guy doesn't get killed.
He's a lawyer, you know. That's exactly. I know that's her character's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's not her fault, but it's
but it's a nothing part for Ashley Judd. I mean, she could do so much better
for sure. And then there's also, I don't know, they make it so there's also this like, oh, the system's super against Carl Lee Haley. That's the idea. The system's so against him, and I'm like, is it? Because the cop like drove to his house and like picked him up after he shot those guys. They didn't even put him in handcuffs or nothing. And like, no. And then like the sheriff is Charles S. Dutton, and he like takes him out of the jail so that he could go visit Chris Cooper in the hospital because he accidentally shot him when he shot the rapist.
Oh, I forgot this whole thing.
And
oh my God.
I'm like, well, actually you know, and then like they get Samuel Jackson's character kills these two rapists, and really, seriously, fuck those rapists. I don't give a shit. I'm much like Samuel Jackson. I'm like, I hope they burn in hell. I'm fine with that. But like in the process, he also shoots Chris Cooper's Deputy Looney. That's his name, Deputy Looney. I'm not making it up. Sounds like a cartoon name. And he like blows his knee off, and they have to like amputate his leg. So he goes the sheriff like takes him from the
Sorry, I'm
jail.
laughing.
That's hilarious. No, but like
No, but
they take him from the jail, and he goes to visit Chris Cooper, and he apologizes, and obviously Chris Cooper's upset. You cost me my leg, kind of thing. And then he goes back to jail, and he testifies later, and he says like, I don't wish him any harm. Like, he's a hero. You should turn him loose. And he yells at the jury, "You turn him loose!" All this stuff. And I'm like, the cops are, with the exception of one cop who joins the Klan, the rest of the cops are on his side.
Everybody's on his side.
It's just the Klan.
It's just the Klan. Who gives a shit about them?
It's just the Klan and Kevin Spacey, who is using it as he's running for governor. Like, there is that funny scene where like Matthew McConaughey calls him out for running for governor, or calls him governor, and then he's like, "I am not governor yet." He is a prick, and he's cheating to win. Like, he has access to like the confidential jury selection process, and like he's palling around with the judge. So he's very Mitch McConnell. He's very Mitch McConnell. He's gross, but like the idea that somehow everything is against Carly Haley's kind of false, actually. Like, everyone seems to be quite supportive except for the Klan and Kevin Spacey.
There's been other cases, I don't know about around the world, but in America, where a parent has shot and killed someone for raping their child, and there's an enormous amount of empathy for there's still due process and they still go to trial and stuff, but there's usually an enormous amount of empathy for the parent that was, and for the kid, and not for the perpetrator. So just because like, oh, well, they're white and he's black, they're going to like not think it's so bad what they did. I'm like, no, you describe that about it. You don't have to say that she's white and to get empathy from me. You tell me somebody took a child and did all that to her, I would be furious.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, fuck them. Good.
Well, and so then we also get to cut to our like all white jury. And there's one guy who's like comically the leader, I guess. He's like obviously a horrible racist. And then they're talking about it at the restaurant, and they're pretty evenly divided about whether he's guilty or not guilty. I mean, he's guilty no matter what because he did it.
Yeah.
And they know he did it. It's whether or not they want to buy his insanity plea or not. And originally, like at the start, they're pretty divided, it seems. Like, it wasn't as, they didn't have to win over as many of them as you would think.
Right.
Actually. I also wanted to mention Kiefer Sutherland is a really good villain.
I love him as a villain. I always think he's better as a villain.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He's really creepy. He totally looks like someone who would do those things. Sorry, Kiefer Sutherland, but you really do.
You do. You have that face. Sorry.
He totally has that face. It's no slight on him, but it's true. And I also wrote in my notes, Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock should have made a romantic comedy together. They still could.
They were romantically involved. I'm surprised they never did that.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised it didn't work out. They're very good looking couple. Have a lot of, well, I guess it takes more than good looks to make it work.
I'm gonna guess, and also they were so secretive about it. Remember
yeah,
that? Like,
so
they wouldn't
secretive.
confirm it, and they dated for years, and they wouldn't say anything about it.
Yeah, I would. Maybe they're still friends. I would love for them to make a romantic comedy together. Also, I say that about everyone who's in scenes with Sandra Bullock. I don't know if listeners have picked that up yet. I just super love her the most. And then we get Anthony Heald, who played the shrink in Silence of the Lambs. He showed up in The Client, and here he is again, playing yet another creepy shrink. Always a pleasure to see that fucking creep. And what else do I want to say? Oh, how much do we love Ashley Judd in general? It's a lot, right? We all love her.
Oh, I adore her.
Yeah.
I think she's a great actress, and I think I like her. She's on Twitter a lot for social causes, and I'm like, right on, Ashley. I'm with you.
Yeah, I like her a lot. I hope she works more because I think she's rad. Not just personally, but like as an actress when she shows up in things. I'm like, I like her. I think she's
Well,
good.
I think she's one of the actresses that Harvey Weinstein
Yeah.
like said some shitty things about her, and then she wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. That
Such an
pisses me
asshole.
off. That's why we
Yeah.
don't get any Mira Sorvino. That's why we didn't get any Bridget Fonda. That shit pisses me off.
Yeah.
Other things I wrote in my notes. The kid runs out and yells, "He's innocent." And I'm like, well, I'm sure he meant not guilty by reason of insanity, but that doesn't, it's not as,
doesn't roll off the tongue.
it doesn't
as
roll off
easily.
the tongue. And then there's a scene where like at the end, like Samuel Jackson's like hugging his daughter after the trial, and the American flag is flying by the courthouse, and so is the Confederate flag. FYI,
Yay.
because that was a
yeah. Well,
thing.
it's in Mississippi. It's still a thing. That's,
Ugh.
Oh, it makes me crazy.
It makes me crazy too. I also read that Kevin Costner, Alec Baldwin, and Brad Pitt were all considered for the role that Matthew McConaughey ended up playing. And Joel Schumacher had offered it to Val Kilmer as well.
Which is surprising because they had a hard time working together on Batman
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. Val Kilmer would have been good too.
Yeah. Actually, I'm like, I don't know about Alec Baldwin in that part, but
No.
But Costner, yeah, sure.
But Costner wanted complete control.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, fuck you. This is already, it's going to be a guaranteed hit. I don't need you nosing around in it.
Like Brad Pitt probably would have been good too, but I think Matthew McConaughey is really good in this movie. It's
a good choice because that like you said, that was his first big part. I think he was in Lone Star around the same time, which is a really good movie.
Yeah, that's a really good movie. I like that one a lot.
Such a sad movie. He's really good in that. But I think it's like, yeah, you have something with his kind of charisma really kind of holds it all together. You didn't really know who he was yet.
Yeah.
And that kind of like, we didn't know about naked bongos and shit. Like,
I read that he auditioned for the part that Kiefer Sutherland plays, and I was like, well, I'm really glad he didn't play that part because then I would have been like, I'm gonna join the Klan. He's so hot.
He was so hot. I mean, I have to say, like, he's a handsome man.
He is, and I would have never joined the Klan. Just FYI.
Yeah.
I think it goes without saying, y'all. Do you want to hear about some other Joel Schumacher movies, or should we start with other John Grisham movies?
You decide.
Let's go with Joel Schumacher movies. So, in the 70s, he wrote Car Wash.
I love Car Wash.
With the best movie theme song of all time, in my opinion. Of
all time, yes.
And he also co-wrote The Wiz.
Oh, with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson?
Which I haven't seen since I was a kid. But
it is such a boring movie. It is such it's such a
Good
shame.
To know.
That movie is such a shame. I had a pizza party, like a birthday party, and we were allowed to watch a movie, and I picked The Wiz, and like all the kids started leaving the room. It's a trauma.
God damn it, Wiz, you ruined my birthday.
You suck, Wiz.
All right, then fuck that movie. I'll scratch it off my list. Other movies he directed St. Elmo's Fire.
We talked about that.
It is one of our most popular episodes. If y'all haven't listened to our episode of St. Elmo's Fire, maybe you should. It's pretty funny, if I don't say
hilarious.
So myself. Because that movie is fucked up.
It's a fucked up
I'm
movie.
sorry.
But
Rest in peace, Joel
way.
Schumacher. You made a lot of other like very entertaining, very good movies. St. Elmo's Fire was not one of them.
No.
He did The Lost Boys.
Love The Lost Boys, and we covered The Lost Boys.
Yeah, we did an episode on The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys, that movie is dope. You should watch it. He also did Cousins, a movie I really like.
I like that movie too.
Flatliners.
We should talk about that someday because I'm sure that's really messed up.
Yeah, we definitely should put that on the list. Also, another one that we've brought up a few times, Dying Young.
Yeah, we have to do that too. Oh my God.
He's got a couple on here that I was like, we could just do a whole separate podcast all about Schumacher movies.
Yeah.
Falling Down.
Oh, the Michael.
Yeah.
People like that movie, and I
don't.
Never been. Oh, White Male Rage is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Batman Forever, I like that one. That
It's
one's
okay.
it's fine. Like I like the first one the most, but I think that one's very entertaining too. Batman and Robin,
Mm-hmm.
that's a thing. 8 millimeter. It's dark and fucked up if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And then he did Flawless with
Oh,
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah,
R.I.P.
R.I.P. I remember liking that one.
Yeah, it's would it hold up? Who knows?
Yeah.
Because yeah, but Robert De Niro too, right? Robert De Niro's
Mm-hmm.
right. I got
And
it. I remember now.
he also did a movie called Phone Booth with Colin Farrell that a lot of people
Wait,
really like. Yeah.
but have you seen a phone booth in years?
No, they couldn't make it now, obviously.
No. Like,
Oh my gosh. And then other movies that are based on John Grisham books, there's The Firm,
yep.
which I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen it since the theater, actually.
I stupid love it. Like I love The Client. I like The Firm. It's
I
too long,
Yeah.
but it's good.
By the way, A Time to Kill is too long.
Too fucking long.
It's
yeah.
like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it does not need to be 2.5 hours.
No,
Right.
it's some bullshit. The Pelican Brief.
People like that one so much. I haven't seen it in a while.
I know I saw it and was like, that's a thing to watch, but like didn't. I've
Yeah.
never gone back to it. Similar to The Chamber.
Now, is that with
Chris
no,
O'Donnell.
that's, Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
And then The Rainmaker.
I like The Rainmaker.
This one has big fans. I know.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the theater and really liking it, but by the way, most of these I haven't seen since the theater. So
I gotcha.
The Gingerbread Man.
I've never seen it.
That's the one with Kenneth Branagh. But I haven't seen it since the theater. Runaway Jury.
Oh, John Cusack?
No, is it John Cusack? I know it's got Gwyneth Paltrow, Edward Norton, and is it John Cusack, the other one? Maybe.
I don't know.
Let's look. I'm like, I guess I should look these things up, huh? Let's look. Let's look.
I'm afraid to look because I'm afraid I'll get hung up on.
It is John Cusack. You're right.
I know my Cusack movies.
Yeah, you do. You're so smart.
Fucking A.
And then, I lost my notes. And the last one was Christmas with the Cranks, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
And you read the story. Is the story good?
For which one?
Christmas with the Cranks.
I think I liked we do so many books and movies, sometimes they kind of mush together in your brain. I think I liked the movie better than the book. Yeah. Yeah, I think it holds up. It's not a long novel. It's just different for everything else he does.
Yeah.
It's about this couple that they think they're going to go away for the holidays. And normally they're the biggest celebrators of Christmas ever. But then their daughter just calls out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I'm coming over with my new boyfriend and we're getting married this week." And so they have to drop everything and save Christmas and have the biggest Christmas ever. And they learn lessons about family and fellowship.
Oh, that shit.
All that shit, which I kind of like Christmas movies. So I usually judge by a pretty wide berth.
Yeah.
It's a thing to watch when the holidays are around and you're wrapping presents and doing other shit, like writing your Christmas cards. It's
okay.
fine.
All right. Good to know. I'll put it on my Christmas list. So I'm so glad that we talked about these, not just because they were on our list since the very beginning, but also, to give Joel Schumacher his props. Like
he was supposedly a really nice man.
Yeah, like we crapped a little bit on A Time to Kill, but The Client's really good, and he made movies that we super love. Like
The Lost Boys is great.
I love The Lost Boys, and I grew up watching all of these movies that we're talking about. Cousins, I watched St. Elmo's Fire, for better for worse. I watched that a lot. Flatliners.
Yeah.
The Batman movies, like. I watched those, I was bummed when I saw that he passed away, but I realized that people can't live forever. But
no,
yeah, unless he did like a flatliner situation, but I don't think he did.
No, that is such a messed up movie. If I remember,
so messed up.
It's medical students that try to go to the brink of death.
Yeah,
and Julia Roberts is in there. Is Oliver Platt in it?
Yes, Oliver Platt's in it.
Kiefer Sutherland
and Julia Roberts were a couple at the time. It was.
And then she dumped him
Yeah.
and flew to Ireland with Jason Patrick, the star of Lost Boys.
What?
All of this is coming together.
It's the circle of life. But I'm glad we talked about this. This was really fun.
No, it was great. And the client especially has been on the list forever. It's like since I've seen it in '94, I've wanted to talk about it with somebody. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. I like courtroom movies. I know that The Client isn't technically a courtroom movie, but I still like that sort of thing.
I think we talked about with Adam Risky a lot about like the '90s thrillers. We just don't get those kind of movies anymore.
No, and they're so fun to watch.
They are.
We'll have to. I don't know what our next one will be. We'll have to make a list.
Yeah.
Just '90s thrillers, because I'm into it. Where can people find you on the internet, Margo?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fitchick, mostly for Twitter and Instagram, and my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And you can find both of us at What a Creep if you're not tired of hearing our voices. We talk about a creep every week, and then we end the episode with someone who's not a creep. So you can find everything you want to know about What a Creep at Margo's blog, which she just mentioned.
Yes.
Or you can follow us on Twitter at like Creep Pod, and we post all of our new episodes. And we have a private Facebook group for What a Creep podcast, and it's such a good group. I rave about it all the time to people. It's so good.
But if you're a fan of dorking out, like join the What a Creep podcast group because people talk about dorking out there too.
It is. It's really turning into like a Margo and Sonia group, basically, where people are just talking about our shows. So please join if you want. You are welcome, as long as you don't have a picture as a juggalo or a dirty name. We'll let you in. You could find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find Dorking Out wherever you listen to your podcasts. You're listening right now. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll give you a shout out on the show. Or you can email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. I'm sorry. I think dorkingoutshow. Yes, I have it right, at gmail.com. And
if you have ideas, send them to us.
Yeah, we love requests.
We should cover. We do love requests. Trust me.
We take them very seriously, and you can find Dorking Out on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, and Dorking Out Show on Instagram and Facebook too. Thanks for talking about these movies with me, Margo.
Thank you so much, and R.I.P. Joel Schumacher. You lived a big, beautiful life. I hope it was all good for you.